Welcome into Trucker Talk Radio. You're on Behind the Wheelhouse with J and J. I'm John. This is Justin. Today we've got on a great guest. His name is Brett Quigley, president of Quigley Transportation Management Solutions. 40 plus years in transportation. He's managed three of the nation's top 100 private commercial fleets, helped companies navigate DOT audits. He's testified in court and literally built compliance programs from the ground up for Fortune 500 level operations. Brett, how you doing today? Great to have you on.
Good morning.
Yeah,
I'm doing great. Thank you.
appreciate you coming on. I got to say one thing before we get started. So, if he's got 40 years, so we're pushing about 100 years of combined in the industry. We got all one thing in common. That should explain everything about trucking to everybody right now.
Yep.
None of us have got hair. So, I mean that should tell you the stress.
We're in
Uh,
an exclusive club, all right? It's called the
that's it.
BMC,
Yeah,
Bald Men's Club. You got to look like us to join.
absolutely.
So, Brett, let's start from the beginning, because 40 years is a career, you
Mhm.
know, and a half in most industries. How does someone end up spending 4 decades in transportation management, and where did it all start?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. Actually, I got my start working for a small truck leasing firm and truck dealership in South Bend, Indiana, called Whiteford's. And I started out washing trucks and
Okay. Yeah.
built and worked there part-time as I finished high school and then went to college. Ended up going full-time there. Worked there for, gosh, I forget how many years, and then worked my way up through the ranks and became corporate rental manager and finally district manager over two locations. Then they were acquired by Lend-Lease Trucks and later acquired by Ryder. So I transitioned into the dedicated contract carriage part of the business with Lend-Lease and then also did that for Ryder. And then I transitioned into private fleet management with several different companies, as you had mentioned. So
Where'd you grow up?
a small town just south of South Bend, Indiana, called North
Okay.
Liberty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've
So
stayed
in
around the
Hoosier,
same area your whole life, huh?
well, pretty much. 2004, I took a job at Kellogg Company,
Okay.
the cereal manufacturer, managing their fleet of DSD delivery trucks as well as their automobile fleet. And I did that for 7 years. So we moved to Michigan. They're out of Battle Creek, Michigan. So I was at the
Mm-hmm.
corporate world headquarters. Then I went into the oil and gas industry for about 9 years
Okay.
Oh,
and
wow.
cut my teeth on that.
Were you doing like frac sand or what were you doing in oil and gas?
They had different divisions. They had a cementing division, wireline, and water hauling division.
Hmm.
So then after that, I started my consulting company, and then I went back to a company called Mondelez, which is Nabisco Foods,
Hmm.
and managed their DSD fleet for about 2.5 years. And then beginning 2026, I focused full time on my consulting business. So
Well, I gotta ask, what's kept you in it? What's been the one thing that's because I mean it is a very frustrating and vigorous industry. So what's kept you in it all these years?
that's a great question. And I would have to sum it up by saying that every day brings a new challenge.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
I'm the type that tends to get a little bored with just the status quo. So I'm always challenging the status quo, companies I work for. And again, every day creates a new challenge. And I just find it very interesting.
So tell us a little bit about Quigley Transportation Management Solutions, or explain what your company is. You guys are mainly focused on compliance, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So during COVID, I was working from home, had an opportunity to take the dog out for a walk every morning and think without any interruptions. And I was thinking, there's a lot of companies, smaller companies that cannot afford to hire the expertise that we could offer, and they would reap the benefit of the knowledge that I've gained over 40 years in the transportation industry. So what we really try to focus on is small to medium-sized motor carriers that are either Well, ideally, get in with those companies before they get into trouble with DOT or litigation. We've helped a lot of companies correct the issues that they've experienced through a DOT audit. So get them
Right.
back on the right track, put services in place to help them with their compliance program to avoid them having to experience the same thing over again. Or worst case scenario is they're involved in a serious accident and then, the litigation kicks in and, try to avoid the nuclear verdicts and things like that.
A lot of drivers, in small fleets, small to medium sized fleets, they hear compliance and they get scared, right? And they
Mhm.
think it's expensive. And how am I going to afford this? Or I'll just put it off until next month. What do you say to those guys that are out there that are like, they haven't necessarily gone through an audit yet, maybe they're a one truck operation, two truck operation. They need to get their stuff organized. What do you say to those guys?
Yeah, so what I try to instill in these folks is the understanding of what the consequences of noncompliance can be. Um, and that can be as simple as increases in your insurance premium. The other thing is, having going through a DOT audit, if you've never been through one, it can be pretty intense. What I try to focus on is just reinforcing them, sharing my experiences in the industry, having gone through litigation, um, some of the some of the pitfalls and concerns that they need to be aware of. So what I try to do is one, review their program. And a lot of times we'll do that, at minimum cost is just do a sample audit on DQ files, driver
Mhm.
qualification files, for example, or their drug and alcohol testing programs, things like that, just
Mhm.
to give them a feel for, okay, what shape am I actually in case I do get an
Okay.
audit? And then we can tailor programs and offer them, like driver qualification file compliance, where we manage their driver qualification files.
What is some of the stuff that they should, if they're like, hey, I want to call Brett and his team, but I don't know what to get together. I don't know what papers I need. I'm extremely unorganized. Speaking from, I mean, for myself, I'm the worst. Justin can tell you that. I'm the
Mhm.
worst. So if you got somebody like me who's got, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 trucks, unorganized, and I'm like, okay, I need to get my shit together. What do you tell them to bring to the table?
I would go into to SaferSys and look at their basic scores.
Hmm.
Um, and then if I see things of concern, what I may do is ask them to share their USDOT PIN number with me so that I can actually go in and see what the actual ratings are through their CSA scores.
Okay.
The other thing I may do is ask them for, just send me what you have on a driver from a driver qualification file standpoint.
Mhm.
Then I'll take a look and I'll audit that one file and just to give them a general recap of where I see they stand with that one file.
So where do you see, with your experience, where do companies get in trouble the most? Is it something small that kind of festers and grows, or is it something big that they miss, a lot of times? Because I've been around a lot of these trucking companies, and I just got through working with one. They didn't know the front side of the paper from the back side of the paper. I mean, it was just that obvious. And they had a lot of issues. So what are the more common things that you see that, working with you, you could easily, help them with those? Because I know how it is. In any kind of court settlings or anything, they get you in the door with that, and then they continually find stuff throughout the audit.
Exactly. So I can tell you this, every company that I've worked for as an employee, where I've managed their DOT compliance program, as well as every client that we've brought on board that we manage their DQ files,
Hmm.
I've yet to find one file that's 100% compliant. So that's probably the biggest opportunity that I see.
Hmm.
The other ones are probably more of a concern is the drug and alcohol testing programs. They're not doing it per the percentage that DOT has established. They're not doing, pre-employment testing, whatever the case may be. So those are things that we can identify actually very quickly and get them on the right path.
Could you go into just a little bit for our audience of what is all included in that, and then what are these companies missing with, if it's not 100%, that's the first document, that you have, why aren't they getting that little bit? Is it just educational wise that they don't truly know exactly what they're supposed to have in that file?
What we see, a lot of it is non-compliant documents. So their application is an example. They're not, it's not asking the right questions from a driver standpoint.
Okay.
It doesn't have the rebuttal statement on the application. Is another good thing or common thing that we see. You've got to have a copy of your driver's license. You got to have a copy of your medical card. The application, the pre-employment verifications, a lot of times we see that that's not being performed. You got to go back 3 years on a driver's history and verify that employment dates and everything with the previous employers. You got to have the, confirming that they only have one CDL license. Those are probably the biggest things. The other thing that we see with the introduction of the Clearinghouse, we're still finding drivers that don't have Clearinghouse accounts established. So smaller carriers that will hire these individuals, they're not aware that they have to do the Clearinghouse, the pre-employment Clearinghouse query, as well as the annual queries. That's a common issue that we see.
And that's on the driver to do, correct?
Well, it's the driver and the company. So the driver has to establish their account with the Clearinghouse.
Okay.
And then, but the companies also have to establish their account and then run the queries.
On the driver's part of having all those documents and then getting with the carrier to find out of their work history, why isn't there something more simple than having? So if you're an onboarder and you're bringing on a driver and you've got 10 guys and you've got or gals and you've got a call, well, that company has to answer that every time somebody goes to another job, and we got about 100% turnover in the industry. Why isn't there a database or something that you can just go check really fast to see if that driver did work versus having to call? And now we've got companies that'll charge you, $75 if you want it within 2 days. Why isn't there something a little bit simpler for that?
I think the introduction of the Clearinghouse is just a fantastic thing that the government did, because now you've got that repository, one place to go to verify any issues. Now, what it doesn't identify is like a no-show on or refusal to test on a pre-employment. I would love to see the government kind of maybe next step do something exactly like you're talking about. Have a reporting mechanism where you report in hire and term dates on drivers. I have an issue personally with companies that outsource responses to inquiries on previous employees, and the fact that they can charge the companies that are requesting that information. To me, if a company decides to outsource that, they should be covering the cost, because they're the ones that are saving that from not having somebody in-house respond to those requests. I mean, we do that on behalf of our customers. We will handle the requests that are coming in. And, we don't charge any extra for that. That's something that the government, the DOT, needs to get a handle on, because it's too easy just to outsource that and, say, I don't do that, call 10th Street is a common one. And the fact that a prospective employer has to pay for that is just not right, in my opinion.
Something I want to go into, because we do have a lot of, single truck fleets. We've got, or, just owner operators. We've got, small, medium-sized companies. The one that you're talking about, they may be coming up on an audit, or they're going to have an audit at some time. A lot of these guys don't know what to expect during the audit process. most of them, like I said, it's the first time they're going through any kind of compliance review and they're not ready for it. So, what happens when that audit notice shows up and what should they be doing? And take us inside an audit actually, and like what's going to happen? Because sometimes that audit can go a week, 2 weeks, depending on the size of their company. What should they be prepared for? Kind of take them inside.
Yeah, no, great question. So, first of all, there's, as you probably know, there's different types of audits. So, anytime a company registers for and receives a DOT number, they're going to receive an audit. It's a new entrant audit within 12 to 18 months. And what they need to have, be able to demonstrate to the auditor is they got to complete a questionnaire, and then they will ask for sample documents from a DQ file. They're going to ask for maintenance records on the vehicles. They're going to ask for hours of service records, drug and alcohol testing records, insurance. They're going to have to confirm their insurance. So what they will do is, request, they'll leave it up to the company to, they can submit in whichever vehicle file, whichever driver qualification file they want to submit. And then the auditor will go through that. And if they fail that audit, then obviously they have to make the necessary corrective actions. Then you have the focused audits, and that's driven by typically your SMS, your CSA scores, and also you have more than two or more alerts. You can probably figure that you're going to get called upon at some point to have a focused audit, and they're going to focus in on that area that you have the alerts in. That's not to say that once they get in there and start digging and they find issues, that they can't expand that focused audit to a full audit. I've had that
Okay.
with some companies.
Mhm.
And in a full audit, they're going to go from A to Z, and they're going to look at every component of compliance. They're going to look at the driver, they're going to look at the company, they're going to look at the vehicles, maintenance records, so on and so forth. And they're going to ask for samples. And more than likely in that audit, they're going to ask for the focused audit as well as the full audit. They're going to ask for specific driver files or vehicle files. And where they come up with that information typically is roadside violations or roadside inspections. Keep in mind, an auditor is not going to ask for anything that they don't already have the answer to. So they know exactly where the driver was at a roadside inspection. They know what time they were there. And that's, if they pull a driver's logs and that falsified, they're not showing that they were at that DOT roadside inspection at that point in time, that becomes a violation.
So, what happens when they fail that audit?
So what they'll do is, if they fail, they will either receive a conditional rating, safety rating, or a unsatisfactory rating. And they can continue operating with a conditional rating. It's just
Okay.
that they're going to have a harder time getting
Getting access to
loads.
freight. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is their insurance rates will go up as a result of that, all that. If it's unsat, they can continue operating for a period of time, but they have to correct those issues and demonstrate to the DOT that they've done that. Otherwise, they will lose their operating authority.
Now, is there any type of fines or anything that they get, or is it just the scores itself that, get hit?
I've had clients that have went through audits that have not gotten any civil penalties. Then I've had others that have gotten civil penalties up in the tens of thousands of dollars for non-compliant.
So needless to say, to give yourself a plug here, it's worth the investment for a company to have a company like yours to be ahead of the game. So when that happens, pay a little bit up front, not that to pay a whole lot on the back end, because that you're just compounding the issue at that point.
I couldn't. You just stole my marketing my marketing line. Absolutely. It's being proactive in ensuring that you're compliant
Mhm.
gives you the peace of mind that you can sleep at night. It insulates you from fines and penalties. It will help insulate you from litigation. And the price you pay for a service like ours, whether you use us or somebody else, it's a small price to pay to gain that comfort level.
The industry's watching, autonomous trucking with a mix of excitement and skepticism. The autonomous truck market is projected to grow, over the next, 7 to 10 years. Who knows? It could be five. It seems like every day I look, they're getting closer and closer and closer. So there's a reefer company that's going to go this year. They're going to put 500 trucks, completely autonomous on the road. When driverless trucks arrive at scale, does DOT compliance get simpler, or are we now dealing with a whole set of new problems?
That's a great question. And I don't know what to expect, honestly. I mean, I would think, one, I don't see, I'm not convinced that there's going to be a fully autonomous truck without any driver in the vehicle.
Yeah, everybody's got a different answer. Some people say that there is, and then some people say there's going to be a guy handling 5 to 10 trucks behind a joystick. He's going to like look over them like an air traffic controller. And then some people say, no, we need a pilot in a plane. We can't have a truck is essentially, we say it all the time, it's an 80,000 pound missile driving down the road. Somebody hacks into that, or if it stops in the middle of the road suddenly, what do you do?
Yeah, I just think the liability associated with the total autonomous vehicle is going to be too huge for the auto manufacturers or the truck manufacturers. And I could be wrong. I'm somewhat old school, I guess. I would not want to be the one that's in a line of traffic that all of a sudden you have to have you know, an aggressive stop because of construction or whatever,
Mhm.
and have one of these autonomous vehicles operating behind me. I just don't have that comfort level yet. Now, maybe that will change, in my lifetime. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, I think it's one thing to have an Uber, a little four-door car that, is by itself. If it runs into something, yeah, it's still damage, but it's minimal damage compared to what a 80,000 pound bullet, can just run through multiple cars. You see it all the time up north during the snowstorms. They can't stop on the interstate and they just one after another. That's how I feel like it would be with autonomous trucks on a clear day. They just can't stop and they just keep just running into each other. And I don't see a problem with it if it's like the airplanes. You have a driver in there the full time and they're there to take over. They don't have to be paying 100% attention, but they're right there. And, I don't know if that saves anybody money by still having that truck in there, but it makes the road safer, because, they've got an extra person basically driving the truck. But it'll be interesting to see what the next, 5, 10, 20 years looks like with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where do you think, the compliance burden is heading for carriers over the next 5 years? I mean, the trucking industry is at the forefront in the media right now, like it's never been before. So what are you telling these guys?
You got to make sure that you check out your applicants very thoroughly. You
Mhm.
can't skip any steps in that process. And one is make sure that you do a road test. There's,
It's a good idea.
whether,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, whether or not they're, foreign immigrants or whatever the case may be, there's many, many CDL holders out there that when you road test them, they can't back a tractor
Mm.
trailer. Even though they have a
Absolutely.
CDL, they've had it for
Mm.
years.
They can't
They,
backing a
they can't
trailer is a
back
different
it.
animal. I can't do it myself. I can't do it. I hauled the U-Haul this summer, taking my son's stuff up to Kentucky from Florida, and man, I got a lot of respect for these guys because I cannot back a trailer to save my life. It was awful.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is, you know, do your due diligence, make sure that you've got the staff in place to ensure compliance, or if you can't, afford that, or you don't have you don't have that ability or that talent, then seek out a company like ours and let us help you be successful in that area. Because I can tell you from experience, you get into litigation, it is very, very painful to go through. And it's very, very costly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think you're saving money now by not following the rules and getting yourself organized, just do it. Or even give Quigley, Brett's company a call. Brett, go ahead and make a plug and tell how people can get a hold of you.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you my cell number. It's 281-520-6699. Give me a call and certainly be glad to help you out any way I can.
And then what's your website?
It's www.quigley-tms.com.
Quigley-tms.com. Justin, you want to close us out and thank our sponsors?
Yeah, we appreciate you, Brett, coming on today. But we definitely want to thank our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Gray Cross. Gray Cross is dedicated to supporting trucking families when they need it the most, whether it's a medical emergency, financial hardship, or an unexpected situation of loss of life on the road. They step in to provide real help to the people behind the wheel. This industry runs on drivers, and Gray Cross is making sure those drivers and families are taken care of when it matters the most. It's graycross.org. If everybody will go, donate $1, $5, $10, every dollar helps. And then our other sponsor is ReadyApp. We appreciate them as always. ReadyApp is changing the way drivers and carriers and brokers connect and create a verified driver profile that puts everything in one place. Work history, documents, qualification, all organized and ready to go. Instead of filling out the same application over and over, drivers can share one complete profile and companies can hire faster with more confidence. It brings structure and transparency and trust into a process that's been fragmented for a long time. We hope to announce the load board in a couple weeks. That's going to be an exciting thing. So drivers and carriers, brokers, recruiters, everybody go check that out at ready-app.com.
That's a wrap on Behind the Wheelhouse. If this episode hit home, share, like it on Facebook, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the podcasting apps out there. We're going to be on TikTok soon, so get on there and check us out and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So we'll catch you on the next one. Brett, we really appreciate you coming on. Again, that's Brett Quigley with Quigley TMS. We appreciate it.
Thank you.